All right. So we are on chapter 5 today. And again, for the, just so y'all know, for the next exam, it's going to be kind of like the same situation as last time, as far as for those of you that are the Tuesday people, you'll need to be prepared to take the test on that Tuesday, which is, let's see, the 6th, October 6th. So because of split class, we don't really have time to have a review day, because we have to have the Tuesday people take it on Tuesday, and then the Thursday people take it on Thursday. So yeah, for those of you that are Tuesday people, just be prepared for exam 2 on October 6th, and then Thursday people will take it on October 8th. All right. All right, so chapter 5 is all about decimals. So first of all, we want to make sure to be familiar with the place values. So with the decimal point, so everything that's after the decimal point is the tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, 100,000ths, and so on. So those all end in THS, tenths, hundredths, and so on. And then to the left of the decimal point, you have ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, and so on that way. All right, so for that example, in the thousands place is a 1. The hundreds place is a 0. The tenths place is a 9. The ones place is a 5. And then tenths place is 7. Hundredths place is 2. Thousandths place is 3. 10,000ths place is a 6. And the 100,000ths place is an 8. All right, so we have to be familiar with the place values so that we can do rounding. All right. All right, so we're rounding to the nearest 10th. So the 10th place is the first one after the decimal point. So if we're rounding to the nearest 10th, that means we're going to look at the number in the 10th place, and then we're going to look at the digit right after that. So on number 1, the 10th place is a 2, and the number right after that is a 3. So because of the fact that 3 is less than 5, that means we round down to 5.2. All right, so whenever you round to the 10th place, that means your answer is just only going to go out to the 10th place and then nothing after that. So number 2, in the 10th place, you have an 8, and that's followed by a 7. So 7 is greater than or equal to 5. So that means that 8 has to be rounded up to 9. So it's going to be 12.9. And then on number 3, in the 10th place, we have a 0 followed by a 6. 6 is greater than or equal to 5. So therefore, that 0 has to get rounded up to a 1. So it'll be 0.1. All right, and it's true that you don't have to have the 0 in the 0.1, but I prefer to write it that way because it kind of emphasizes that little decimal point. So it's less likely to be confused for just 1 instead of 0.1. All right. And then number 4, we have 37.5509. So in the 10th place, we have a 5, followed by a 5. And this 5 is greater than or equal to 5. Therefore, that 5 has to get rounded up to a 6. So it turns into 37.6. I don't know if the Zoom meeting is still working. Can y'all still hear me on the Zoom? Somebody let me know. It's acting kind of weird. Okay, it seems like it's working. All right,
Yeah,
so
we
number
can hear
5.
you.
Okay, thank you. Wasn't sure, my computer's been acting kind of weird, so I just wanted to make sure. Thank you. All right. Okay, so number 5. All right, so if we want to round that to the nearest 10th, in the 10th place we have a 9, and then after that we have a 5. So 5 is greater than or equal to 5. So that means that we're going to have to round up. Now in this case, we have a 9 that we need to round up. So we have to kind of like round that 9 up to a 10. So this is a one case where it's going to affect another digit to the left. So that 0 is going to turn into a 1 instead, being 1.0. Okay. And sure, technically 1 and 1.0 are the same thing. So you could probably just put 1 and that's the same thing. But writing it as 1.0 shows that you rounded it to the nearest 10th. So it kind of shows that it's accurate to that place value. So you might even see some question on your homework, like multiple choice, that asks you like which one of these is a better answer, like 1 or 1.0. So in this case, since we rounded it to the nearest tenth, 1.0 is technically a more appropriate answer. Well, one person said they can't hear me. That's not good. No. I don't know what's going on with it. All right. Video keeps going off. All right. Okay. So round to the nearest hundredth. All right, so on number 6, we have a 5 in the hundredths place, followed by a 6. So 6 is greater than or equal to 5, so that 5 is going to round up, which means it's going to be 17.86. And then number 7, okay, in the hundredths place, we have a 2, followed by a 7. 7's greater than or equal to 5, which means that's going to round up. So it's going to be 5.73. And number 8, in the hundredths place, we have an 8 followed by a 4. So 4 is less than 5. So that's just going to be basically round down to 0.98. Okay, so front end rounding means you're going to take basically the digit in the front. So in other words, the digit that is furthest to the left, the first digit, and you're going to round it to whatever that place value is. So we're going, like on number 9, we're going to round it to this place value, which happens to be the thousandths place. All right, so it's followed by a 2, which is less than 5. So that means we're going to round it down to 5,000. So after you use the front end rounding, you're basically only going to have one non-zero digit in your number. All right, and then number 10, 44, so that would round down to 40. 45 would round up to 50. 239 would round down to 200. $130 would round down to 100. And then we've got 57,000 and something. So that's going to round up to 60,000. Okay, so see, there's only one non-zero digit in the number once you use the front end rounding. right, so to add and subtract decimals, you have to line up the decimal points first. Okay, so 12.3 plus 25.87. So you can put a 0 there if you want, or not. Doesn't really matter too much. So 0 plus 7 anyway is 7. And then 3 plus 8 is 11. So put down a 1 and carry a 1. And then 5 plus 2 plus 1 will be 8. And then 1 plus 2 is 3. So the answer is 38.17. And then number 16, again, I'm going to line up the decimal points. So 83.015 minus 16.1. All right. Okay, so just bring down that 5 and that 1, and then 0, you can't take 1 away from 0, so you have to borrow a 1 to make that a 10. So 10 minus 1 would be 9. So when you borrow the 1, the 3 turned into a 2. So now you can't take 6 out of 2, so you have to borrow another 1. So that way it's 12 minus 6, which is 6. And then that 8 has turned into a 7 because you brought a 1 from it. So then 7 minus 1 is 6. So your answer is 66.915. I don't know what that means. All right. Number 17, we have negative 9.05 plus 8.3. Okay, so is this answer going to be positive or negative? It's going to be negative because your account is overdrawn by $9.05, and then you deposit $8.30, but which brings your balance up, but it's still in the negative. All right. So I know my answer is going to be negative. Now to figure out what that answer is, I'm going to do 9.05 minus 8.3. All right. So 5 minus nothing is 5. And then I'm going to have to borrow a 1. 10 minus 3 is 7. 8 minus 8 is 0. So my answer is negative 0.75. All right, so for number 18, would my answer be positive or negative? Negative. And to figure out the rest of it, I'm going to do 22.671 minus 15.72. All right, so 1 minus nothing is 1, 7 minus 2 is 5, and then now I'm going to have to borrow a 1. 16 minus 7 is 9, borrow another 1, 11 minus 5 is 6. 1 minus 1 is going to be 0. So my answer is negative 6.951. All right, for number 19, is my answer positive or negative? And to figure out the rest of it, I need to actually just add 75.8 plus 13.095. All right. So 5, 9, 8, 8, easy peasy. So 88, my answer is negative 88.895. All right, number 20 says subtract 8 from 27.2. So that means we're doing 27.2 minus 8. Okay, so it might be helpful to remember at this point that 8 is the same thing as 8.0, just so you can have it all lined up nicely. So then 2 minus 0 is 2, and then that would be 19. So 19.2 is the answer. All right, number 21 says find the length of the line segments labeled X and Y. Okay. So we could say that X plus 9 is equal to 23. And then just subtract 9 from both sides. So X equals 14 inches. And then for Y, we could say that 5 plus Y is equal to 11. And then just subtract 5 from both sides to get Y equals 6 inches. All right. So then we're going to move on to multiplying and dividing of decimals. Okay. So when you're multiplying decimals, you're just going to focus on, first of all, multiplying the two numbers together. So let's see, number one is just a little bit of a harder one because we're gonna have to do kind of a big long multiplication. So let's do maybe a little bit easier one like number 3. So number 3, the only real multiplication that you would have to do is multiplying 6 times 7. And we also know that it's a negative times a negative, which is going to end up being a positive. Those two negatives would cancel each other out. And then we, like I said, we know that 6 times 7 equals 42. All right. And then to figure out where the decimal point is going to go, we're going to count the total number of digits after the decimal point in our two numbers that we started with. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means we need 1, 2, 3, 4 digits after our decimal point. Okay, so our final answer is 0.0042. Okay, and let's see, number 4. I know that answer is going to be negative because it's a positive times a negative. And I know that 12 times 3 equals 36. And then I would count 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. So my final answer would be negative 0.036. All right. On number 2, is that answer going to be positive or negative? Negative, because it's a negative times a positive. All right. And then I'm going to multiply 153 times 4. So 4 times 3 is 12. So write down the 2 and carry the 1. And then 4 times 5 is 20. 20 plus 1 is 21. So write down the 1 and carry the 2. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 is 6. So I got 612. And then I need 1, 2, 3, 4 digits after the decimal point. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 digits after the decimal point. So my final answer is negative 0.0612. Okay, and then let me do 2301 times 57. So 7 times 1 is 7, 7 times 0 is 0, 7 times 3 is 21. Write down the 1, carry the 2. 7 times 2 is 14, 15 is 16. And then 5 times 1 is 5, 5 times 0 is 0, 5 times 3 is 15. Carry the 1. And 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. And 7, 5, 1, 11. So I got 131157. And I need 1, 2, 3 digits after the decimal point. So 1, 2, 3. So my final answer is 131.157. All right. Any questions? All right, so next we're going to do dividing by decimals. All right, so first of all, the number that you're dividing by needs to look like a whole number. So on number 5, the number that we're dividing by is 3, so that's good. And then the next thing we want to do is take the decimal point from the dividend, which is the number inside the house, and we want to just copy it straight above into the quotient, or in other words, the answer. And then 3 goes into 3 one time. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 minus 3 is 0. Bring down the 7. So 3 would go into 7 2 times. 2 times 3 is 6. 7 minus 6 is 1. Bring down the 5. So 3 goes into 15 5 times. 5 times 3 is 15. 15 minus 15 is 0. And I'm done. So my answer is 1.25. And number 6. All right, so I said the first thing that needs to happen is the number you're dividing by, which is called the divisor, needs to look like a whole number. So instead of 0.2, I need to move the decimal point until that would turn into a whole number. So that means I have to move the decimal point 1 time to the right, which means I also have to move the other decimal point 1 time to the right. So it becomes 2 divided into 13.3. And then I take that decimal point and copy it above. And then 2 goes into 13 6 times. 6 times 2 is 12. 13 minus 12 is 1. Bring down the 3. So 2 goes into 13 6 times. 6 times 2 is 12. 13 minus 12 is 1. And so now what I have to do is throw in a 0 on the end so that I can bring that down. And 2 goes into 10 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10. 10 minus 10 is 0. And so now I'm finished. And my final answer is 6.65. And for number 7, so it's 5 divided by 0.04. So the number you're dividing by has to look like a whole number. So we have to move the decimal point 2 times to the right. So that means we have to move this decimal point 2 times to the right as well. So it's basically the same thing as saying 500 divided by 4. All right, so we could write that out. So 4 goes into 5 1 time. 1 times 4 is 4. 5 minus 4 is 1. Bring down the 0. And then 4 goes into 10 2 times. 2 times 4 is 8. 10 minus 8 is 2. And then bring down the next 0. And then 4 goes into 25 times. 5 times 4 is 20. And 20 minus 20 is 0. So therefore my final answer is 125. All right, so number 8 says 28.1 divided by negative 0.3. or I guess you might say 28.1 over negative 0.3, but that's exactly the same thing as saying 28.1 divided by negative 0.3. So it's a positive divided by a negative. So I know that my answer is going to be negative. And then the number that I'm dividing by needs to become a whole number. So move the decimal point one time to the right and move the other decimal point one time to the right as well. So I'm doing 3 going into 281. So 3 goes into 28 9 times. 9 times 3 is 27. 28 minus 27 is 1. Bring down another 1. And then 3 goes into 11 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. 11 minus 9 is 2. So now I need to write 0.0. And I'll also put the decimal point after the 3 in the answer. So that way I can bring down the 0. And then 3 goes into 20 6 times. So 6 times 3 is 18. 20 minus 18 is 2. And then do another 0 to bring down. So 3 goes into 20 6 times. And 6 times 3 is 18, and 20 minus 18 is 2. So the instructions said round to the nearest hundredth. So what that means is I have to keep going until I get to the thousandth place, and then I can stop and round off the answer. So do one more. 3 goes into 20 6 times. Okay. So now I can stop and I can round it off, which is going to end up being 93.67. So my final answer is negative 93.67. All right. Number 9, we will need to use our PEMDAS skills. So there's nothing on the inside of the parentheses that we have to do. So next I'm going to go to exponents. So I do have an exponent, so negative 0.3 squared. So that is the same thing as negative 0.3 times negative 0.3. So I know that's going to be a positive because negative times a negative is a positive. And I know that 3 times 3 is 9. And then I need to have 2 digits after the decimal point. So that means it's going to be 0.09. All right, and then I'm just going to bring everything else down. So I have 0.7 plus 0.09 divided by 0.1 times negative 1.1. All right, so the next thing I need to do is any multiplication and or division in order as they appear from left to right in the problem. So that means the next thing I have to do is 0.09 divided by 0.1. All right, so I know I have to, the number that I'm dividing by has to become a whole number. So I have to move the decimal point 1 time to the right and then move the other decimal point 1 time to the right. So basically it's 0.9 divided by 1. So basically it's 0.9. And I'll just bring everything else down. So I have 0.7 plus 0.9 times negative 1.1. So the next thing I would have to do is multiply 0.9 times negative 1.1. Okay, So I know that that answer is going to be a negative because it's positive times negative. And I know it's basically 9 times 11 would equal 99. And I need 2 digits after the decimal point. So it's negative 0.99. And then I'm just going to bring down 0.7 plus. So 0.7 plus negative 0.99. Okay, so that's saying if my account had 70 cents and I spent 99 cents, what would my account be? Well, it would be negative 29 cents. It's basically I'm doing 0.99 minus 0.7. So 9 minus 0 is 9, and then 9 minus 7 is 2. So negative 0.29 is my final answer for that. All right. Number 10 says Corey got his car to the gas station just as it ran out of gas. He filled up his 14-gallon tank with regular unleaded for $1.989 per gallon. Which, by the way, if you didn't know, that whenever the gas price, so if the gas price says $1.98 on the sign, there it has like a little bitty like extra digit of 9 after that, or like sometimes they say like a 9/10 or something like that. So they put that in the fine print. So just so you know, if you were to calculate that, that's how they're calculating it. It says $1.98, but it's really that. They're tricky like that. All right, and he then drove his car for 397.5 miles, at which point he ran out of gas again. So how much did the tank of gas cost? Okay, so he got 14 gallons for 1.989 a gallon. So we have to multiply 1.989 times 14. All right, so I got 27846, and I need 3 of those digits to be after the decimal point. Okay, and this is talking about a dollar amount. So when you pay at the register, they always round that to the nearest cent, right? So this would actually be $27.85. All right. And then what was his gas mileage for the trip? So gas mileage is miles per gallon. So miles divided by the number of gallons. So he drove 397.5 miles with 14 gallons of gas. So we have to divide 14 into 397.5. So 14 would go into 39 2 times. 2 times 14 is 28. 39 minus 28 would be 11. and then bring down the 7. So 14 goes into 117 how many times? Maybe 6? No, that's not enough. Maybe 7? I don't think that's going to be enough either. How about 8? Yeah, there we go. 8 times 14 is 112. All right, and subtract that, that's 5. And then bring down the other 5. 14 would go into 55 3 times, I think. 3 times 14 would be 42. Then subtract, which gives you 13. All right, so let's see. Let's assume we round this to the nearest hundredth as well. So 4 would go into 130, probably 9 times. Let's see. Just add 14 to that, so that would be 26. Yeah, that'd be 126. 4. Okay, and 14 would go into 40 two times, because it can't be 3 because that gave us 42 and that'd be too big, so that'd be 2. All right, so at that point we can stop and then just round it off. Like I said, if we're going to round it to the nearest hundredth. So then our final answer for this would be 28.39 miles per gallon. All right, number 11 says, at the last 4 track meets, Jamie ran the 100-yard dash with the following times: 11.5 seconds, 11.2 seconds, 11.0 seconds, and 10.9 seconds. What was her average time? So average means we're going to add them all up and divide by how many numbers there are, which is 4. So we're going to add them all up and then divide by 4. So when I added them all up, I got 44.6. And then we need to divide that by 4. Okay. So, all right, 4 goes in 4 one time. 1 times 4 is 4. Okay, 4 goes into 6 one time. 1 times 4 is 4. 6 minus 4 is 2. And you put another 0 up there. And 4 goes into 20 exactly 5 times. So my final answer is 11.15 seconds. All right. Any questions about anything? Alrighty. I'll see y'all next time.